Mike Detillier. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Welcome into the game in Tuscaloosa.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it, and also want to thank you for coming on with us Monday night. Me and Bobby J had a good time talking to you.
No. Listen, I've told several people that even put a Facebook post up about it, being able to be on with you guys and a station that I grew up listening to all over the country. You know, and this is so much different than our current generation, but how many of us were attached? The college football, we were attached to radio and AM radio, especially because you could pick it up. That's how we connected to the game of college football.
You better believe it. And so, WWL was a big part of that. And we have a great time, but I got to tell you something. The owner of the casino told me to tell you this. If you think you had a good time on the air with us, you should be with us during the breaks and when we off the air. That's the best part of the 4 hours we do.
Gotcha. Well, I saw some of your tweets, and I can only imagine what your guys are able to do. Maybe one of these days when Alabama's off and I need a little vacation, maybe I can find a way to get down to the Silver Slipper.
Yep.
Silver. I don't know why that's so tricky for me, but I can imagine saying that over and over and over and how the tongue twister there. But, Mike, I want to pick your brain a couple of minutes. Let's go back to a couple of different things. Maybe just ask you in a generic way, your biggest takeaway from the weekend. I know you could go a million different directions, but maybe the biggest takeaway from week number 1 in college football.
How there's a big cut even in the SEC between the haves and the have-nots. You know, you saw what Alabama did to Duke, what LSU did, Georgia Southern. Georgia, they won comfortably. But, man, that's a big divide. You know, you watched Ole Miss. Not that was a surprise to me. I think Memphis is a pretty doggone good team, but, man, it goes to show, Ole Miss shouldn't be losing to Memphis. Mississippi State gets in a tussle with University of Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns, and they barely squeaked out a win on that part. Arkansas struggling with Portland State, and Tennessee losing to Georgia State. And you just sort of shake your head about, man, that's a big divide between the haves and the have-nots in the SEC, and even what's happened at South Carolina, where Mac Brown, I don't know what the world he was thinking of late in the game, but he gave the Gamecocks actually an opportunity to get back in it late with some questionable coaching on that part. So, Ryan, I think like in most conferences today, you see it, and it's a huge divide. A huge one between the haves and the have-nots in the SEC too. And, man, it's what, Pete Jenkins and I talked about this summer. Man, just look all the talent. When you look at LSU and Alabama and Georgia, man, give me those guys and start us a new franchise in the NFL, and we'd be pretty good real quick.
So, Mike, I want to spend a couple of minutes here looking back.
Also, too, Ryan, not to cut you off.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
How good Jalen Hurts looked at Oklahoma, and listen, I got so much respect for Lincoln Riley as a coach. And you got to look at it and what he's been able to do now. This is 3 in a row. You get a guy that was at Tech as a walk-on. He loses his starting position there, confrontation with the coach. It didn't work out with Baker, and, he goes to Oklahoma. Comes the Heisman Trophy winner, first pick in the draft. Kyler Murray, didn't work out for him at A&M. He breaks from there. He's a backup a year, and then, last year, at this time, we're talking about, he played a really good first game, but, he's playing pro baseball. He ends up having a great season, and all of a sudden, now he's the first overall pick in the draft. And then what Hurts did against Houston, that was impressive all around. Him throwing the football. Now, again, it goes back to what Lincoln does best. He's right now, he's the quarterback whisperer in college football and what he can do. And he sort of explained it to me a couple of different times in different events that, I look at what he can do, I break it down, and then we build our offense around what he does best. I'm not asking him to do things that I don't think he can do well. I'm asking him to do things that I know he can do well. And, boy, he's done it again. Now, I'll put it to you this way, Jalen, unlike when he was at Alabama, he's going to have to score 40 points every game because that defense is as leaky as a strainer. I mean, Houston just went up and down the field against them, and that's part of the deal. Somehow, some way, Ryan, Oklahoma's got to recruit defense, because if not, they're going to continue to struggle. They might get through the Big 12, but in these Final Four games and bowl type games, that they're not going to be able to get through that. It's very similar to Texas. The crazy thing in leading up to the LSU-Texas game is, who was the last first-round pick on defense for Texas?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'd have to depend on your
He plays with the Saints.
Well, that's
Malcolm Brown.
Gotcha.
And the Patriots picked him. The Saints didn't. He was a free agent, signed with the Saints. So that's 5 years they have not had a first-round pick. 5. Right.
That's crazy, the amount of talent that they get, and they haven't been able to develop that into first-round material.
Now, I do think they have the right guy. I do think that Herman's the right guy at Texas. But, again, I saw him play against Louisiana Tech, and they moved the football up and down the field pretty good. And you know who Ellinger reminds me a lot of, and people have compared him to Tebow, but who he reminds me a lot of is Alex Smith at Utah. And you think about Alex ran Urban Meyer's offense. And who was Tom Herman's mentor? Urban Meyer. And they run that offense with the spread. They run that power run plays with the quarterbacks like they did with Alex Smith. And, he throws the football pretty good. So I'm just interested in how well Texas can play defense against LSU's offense. And the other thing, too, is how well Texas's offense can match up against the guys LSU got on the defensive side of the football, size, speed-wise. You're not seeing that in the Big 12. You don't see those type athletes there. And so it's an interesting matchup early in the season. Huge game for both teams. And if whoever loses, it still doesn't knock them out of the national championship hunt. Because if they win the rest, you in there. At one loss, it's a non-conference loss.
So Mike, I want to go back to just for a minute, okay? Because you're a guy that helps us understand the transition from the college to the NFL. And wanted me to ask you a question, and we've talked about it here for a couple of days. In your opinion, because Lincoln Riley could take Jalen Hurts and do something that Nick Saban was not able to do. He was able to do it some, but not as much, and not able to utilize his skill set. Either way, I think the best quarterback starting in Tua Tagovailoa. I don't agree with Skip Bayless and some of these guys are throwing out all this stuff. I mean, it's idiotic. But can Lincoln Riley take Jalen Hurts and make him an NFL quarterback?
Yeah, I think he could. I really think he can. I answered the question Monday night. We had a caller said, Mike, if Tua was at Oklahoma, what would that look like? And I'm like, one, you wouldn't have. Well, Oklahoma's got really good receivers, but what Tua's working with, it's the best group of receivers in college football. But the offenses are different. They're structured different. And you look at all those passers, all look the same. They're 65, 66, 68% completion rate, few interceptions, a high amount of touchdowns, and they use their feet. Baker did it. Kyler did it. Jalen's doing it. And he looks for that type football player that can run a little bit around, and he spreads you out. And that's the thing that drives you nuts. I just talked with Ed Ogeron in the offseason. He said, Mike, that's the thing with the spread, why we got to do it. He said, because, they've done it to us. If it's been Syracuse, if it's been Florida. He said, even Troy, when they upset us, that's how they did it. They spread us out. You couldn't substitute like you wanted to. They kept us on the field forever. And all of a sudden, the quarterback makes a play with his feet or a little short pass. They get a first down. Get a first down. And he said, you know what? We're going to flip the pancake on them. We're going to do the exact same thing. And that's what Lincoln does. In a similar manner to what Chip Kelly did at Oregon, he's doing at Oklahoma today with those quarterbacks. And so he does it differently. It's a different style than what Nick is running at Alabama. But my thing is, the caller had a pretty good point. You look at the numbers Tua put up a year ago, which is phenomenal. In that type of offense, what OU runs, his numbers would be bigger there. Now, they made the right decision. Tua's the better player. And that's no ifs, ands, buts, and maybes because of the accuracy skills. The thing that's impressive is Tua was, one of these guys that's going to be in that 65 to 68% completion rate. But look at Hurts. He completed over 60% of his passes at Alabama. Wasn't like he was a 52% passer. Just that he was streaky. And you don't see that in Tua. And the accuracy skills sort of wane. When I look at Jalen, he's what I call a groove passer. He gets in a little bit of a groove, and, man, he can hit 5, 6, 7 passes. And you say, man, he looks so good. And then all of a sudden he sails a couple of them. And I know why, because I watched him at the Manning camp. And I saw Peyton and Eli work with him on it. Set your feet. Set your feet, Jalen. His missed throws has nothing to do with his arm strength. It's his accuracy skills go off when he doesn't set his feet right, and he's off balance making the throw. And I watched him a couple years ago when he came here, and Peyton worked with him on his lower body, and keep your feet kind of posted down, almost cemented down, get everything into that throw, and don't throw off balance. Now sometimes you have to because you're on the move, but that pocket pass what makes Breeze, Brady, Manning, Tua so good. They throw the ball on balance in the pocket. That's the key in the NFL. And that's what's going to make Tua a star in the NFL. All I know is all this stuff about Justin Herbert, and I think a lot of him. I think he's prototype to the NFL. He's a big man, and he can rocket one. My thing, in a clutch situation, you know what? Everybody's bashing Tua. Oh, in the big games, he didn't play great. All I know is Justin Herbert wet the pants against Auburn.
He did. Sure. You're right.
Wet the pants late against them. So, man, don't fling me that stuff about, Tua didn't play great against Georgia. He didn't play great against Clemson. All I know is I watched Justin Herbert with a pretty strong supporting cast of guys around him, and he wet the pants late. He didn't pull it out. All I saw was the freshman kid at Auburn win that game for them. I saw Nix do it for them. And, he got some titanium in the backbone. At 18 years old, you walk out on that field for the first time and able to get your team back in it. I give him a tremendous amount of credit. And Herbert's got experience. Does he look like the NFL type? Absolutely. And he's surrounded by NFL people, and he's well coached. But I don't know who he was throwing that football to on the final play of the game, but, he must have thought he was at the other 40-yard line. He sailed, come on, you got to put that ball in play, at least to give your receiver a chance. He sailed that thing completely out of the back of the end zone. So anybody's argument about big game and say, well, I think Herbert's going to be the pick over Tua, because Tua hasn't played well in big games. All I can tell you is I saw Herbert play in the big game. I'm impressed with you late when it all counted.
When it all counted, I mean, he was not there. He was not there to answer the call, and that's what the NFL teams want because of the parity in that league. You got to be able to have those crunch moments in some way to separate yourself.
Yeah, something. Taysom Hill told me this in the offseason. We did a couple of events, and I asked him what makes Drew Brees so great, and he's like, everything on the line. He's the coolest cat. He said, Mike, I try to emulate that. He's on the sidelines. He's so focused. He gets on the field, and he's a cool dude. Hey, I've done this before. Ain't no problem. And he says, if you calm and you cool in the huddle, the other guys are the same. He says, what made Montana who he was? It's what's made, John Elway who he was. It's what's made Brady and Peyton who they are. And he said, just that coolness. Hey, I got this. I got this, guys. And he says, I watched the kid at Clemson. He got it too. He said, He said, because he said, I wondered like all of y'all did, how would he handle Alabama in that final game? Almost like he was playing in the backyard. Hey, I got this. Don't worry about it, guys. We good. We good. And he said, that's the hardest trait. He said, you need accuracy. He said, it's cool. He said, anybody can say that. He said, the coolness under pressure. That's what's the key to being a great quarterback. That the guys believe every time you got the ball late, you're going to win it for them. No matter what, you're going to find a way to win it for them. And I think Taysom's right. I think he's 100% right. They got a lot of guys in this league with tremendous talent and physically more gifted than Brady and Breeze when Peyton played. You got guys in there that got a stronger arm, that are bigger guys, stronger. Why are they so good? Cool, Jack. No pressure. I got it. I got this. Don't worry about it. And so that to me, when you watch college football late in the game and see those guys that can do it, it's just something about them, something about that makeup. Because you're going to be put in that spot a few times as a college player, as a college quarterback. And how will you handle that? And he said, Drew does it as well as anybody. Just say, hey, I got this. Don't worry about it, guys. I got it. And even if there's a mistake, hey, don't worry about it. We'll get the ball back. He said, a lot of guys sort of panic. He said, I was a younger quarterback at BYU, and he said, it happened to me. I would get anxious. I wanted to get back on the field, and they felt I was anxious. And so you kind of get out of your rhythm a little bit. And it's interesting to take from him as a former starting quarterback in college at BYU and now with the Saints, that he brought that coolness out. That's such a big key to coaching, that you can't coach that. You have to have that natural skill. And he said, I watched college football today. He said, I watched Tua. He's got it, doesn't he? He said, I watched Trevor. He's got it, doesn't he? But he said, when you get past that, how many others physically, like what Herbert's got, they don't do it. They don't do it. He said, look at Jake Fromm. He said, it's a great example. A couple shots to beat Alabama, couldn't do it. He says, they played the Sugar Bowl. He didn't play well. He said, who looked good? Ellinger. He looked good in that game. I got it, guys. Don't worry about it. It's funny, Ryan, that I think that's sort of a hidden trait when you look at quarterbacks and you evaluating them, to have that part of them. You know what? Ain't nothing going to bother me. We might lose, but I tell you what, you're in a battle. And that ability to translate your relaxation, your coolness to your teammates is such a big key to play in the position.
Mike, final couple of questions here, and I want to squeeze in maybe a couple of here and maybe the final couple of minutes. LSU, Texas, LSU minus the 6. Can the Tigers go on the road to Austin and represent the SEC and knock out one of the cream daddies out there in the Big 12?
Ryan, I've said this probably since May. I think LSU wins in his double digits.
Wow.
I think they win by 10 or more. I just think that, again, if you're Texas, you do not see that type speed, that type talent on the defensive side of the football. I did see the LSU's offense, and again, it was Georgia Southern, but it has changed. It's what I saw in practice, and they're not practicing that just to show it to me. Come on, that's what they're doing. And Ed feels very comfortable, and what he's got pieced together there, it all works because of Joe Burrow. He does a great job, and man, they got a deep receiving core, got a good group of backs that they're going to hit you with 5 that they're going to run. How well LSU's offensive line can block Texas, which is a heavy blitz team, is going to be interesting. Because if you blitz Joe too much, he's going to pick that up and carve you up. So I just think that matchup early is going to favor LSU because of their defense. It swarms all over the field, the talent, and Caleb, anybody watch it, Caleb Chasson's back. And, he was a terror out on that field Saturday night. And that poor quarterback for Georgia Southern, he had never been hit like that. And it was almost like, somebody gets hit in a game, and it's like, man, we didn't practice getting hit like that. I think LSU wins, and I think they win by more than 10.
All right, Mike, can Texas A&M go and keep it close and give a chance to win against Clemson over in South Carolina?
No, I think Clemson wins, and I think they win big. I think it's 14 or more against A&M, and I would think probably even more than that. I just think that first game for Clemson, all those minds will kind of wandering a little bit. Hey, we play A&M down the road, and Trevor Lawrence ain't going to have another game throwing the ball like he did in the first one. So I think Clemson wins. They win big. I don't know that A&M is going to be able to get pressure on Trevor Lawrence. That I think would be the one thing that could slow him down. I don't know that they're going to get that type of pressure. And, man, those receivers. And I've been beating my chest about him since he was a junior in high school. They've had some really good backs come out of this state of Louisiana, but I ain't never seen somebody that can run that fast like Travis Etienne can with a shoulder pads, a helmet, and a football underneath it tucked under his arm. He's like a human highlight reel every time he touches it. And you don't see those type of guys often. And I think A&M defensively is going to have a lot of issues handling Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne. So I think it's a 3-score game for Clemson.
Well, and Mike, I wanted to talk about Christian Harris, but I'm literally out of time. I mean, this young man came out. It looks solid. I don't know if we've had a better player who started game number 1 at that position and handle the calls, handle the responsibility. Then you look at Shane Lee, and they're both true freshmen. The SEC, they're going to know their name. They may not know after week 1, but going into the season and going out of this year and next year and the following year, they're going to know who Christian Harris is from Baton Rouge.
All I know is I told you that 2 weeks ago.
Yes, you did.
That
you
didn't
did,
surprise
and that's why
me.
I'm trying to give you credit, because you did.
No, I've seen him enough, and now that they've got him at one position, he gets it. He's a quick study guy, and he's going to end up being an all-SEC type player, and quite possibly an All-American at Alabama. He's that good. People got to realize what he did in high school. He was never at one spot. He was all over, and I was impressed with him. He knows how to work around blocks. He's smart. He's instinctive. He's a good open field tackler, and he'll get better in the coverage part of the game. So they got themselves a star there.
Mike Detillier, WWL, 870 out of New Orleans. A guy does college football, NFL football. The Saints gets rolling, NFL. All the great action. Connect with Mike Detillier straight up on the Twitter account. Mike, as always, we thank you so much for your time. Hope you have a wonderful week and a weekend, and we'll talk to you next week. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it, bud.
Thank you. Mike Detillier, one of the best in the business. He does a show down there with Bobby Hebert, and it was fun to be able to visit with those guys on Monday night. Mike Detillier,